Hello, and welcome to another episode of Adamo Baseball, where I'm your host, Adamo. And in this episode, I'm going to be doing the 2021 season preview for the Boston Red Sox. This one, I think they'll finish third in the division, if I'm being brutally honest. Admittedly, I am a lifelong Red Sox fan. I have been since I was 10 years old. That was year 2000. Yes, I just aged myself. I don't really care. Fans are supposed to pick their team to finish first because, but I'm not that naive. I think that they're going to finish third in the division for a couple of reasons. One, I know they rehired Alex Cora to be their manager once again after they let him go prior to the 2020 season. I don't know that he's going to have the same success he has had as a rookie manager. That would be awesome, but I don't particularly see that happening. The lineup is actually really good, top to bottom. Same goes with the pitching staff. Their bullpen's always a question mark, but if they play to their full potential, then yeah, they could win the World Series again. It's kind of how the Red Sox have been in the 21st century, specifically since 2004. The other reason is that it's been a while since their pitching staff has played to its full potential. Last time that happened was 2018. Before that, 2013. What happened both of those years? They won the series. So, yeah, I don't think they're going to play to their full potential. Much as I'd love them to, I don't particularly see it. So I'm going to get started on the lineup. I did some quick research on each of the players before I started, or at least the ones that I'm not familiar with. I'm going to have to make one adjustment to this because as of yesterday, per my recording of this video, February 12th, the Red Sox had just signed Marwin Gonzalez. So I think I know where they're going to put him in the lineup, so I'm going to make some changes to the projection based solely on what I've seen them do in the past, specifically in the Cora era. So go ahead and get started on it. Side note, they just traded Andrew Benintendi to the Royals in a 3-team trade with the Mets as well. Short answer is Andrew Benintendi is no longer a Red Sox, and Franchy Cordero is now a Red Sox. So bear that in mind. So leading off, since Benintendi and Mookie Betts are not in Boston, is a center fielder, sometimes plays other positions in the outfield, Alex Verdugo. My Southern in me naturally thinks vertigo, but that's actually a different word and spelled differently. So, what I saw in there, like through his stats anyway, is that he actually is pretty good. I have no idea how good he is at fielding. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that he's actually pretty decent at it. So, of what I've seen, it looked like he's played some right field throughout his career, but it looks like he's going to be doing a lot of center field, probably since Jackie Bradley Jr. is no longer a Red Sox either. So they're going to have that as a primary transition. Most any hitter is going to be able to hit better than JBJ. Look, I love his 2018 American League Championship Series Most Valuable Player performance just as much as anybody. But outside of that one series, Jackie Bradley Jr. didn't hit much. Anywhere, really. He was always in the 9-hole. You spend your career in the 9-hole. If you're an everyday starter, it is because of how well you field. And with Bradley, it was the case for him. He was not a hitter at all. His batting average was just over 200. So he was not a hitter. If you're putting your new center fielder first in the lineup, it means that he can hit, but more specifically, he can get on base. JBJ didn't do that, so I'm guessing Verdugo can get on base. So hopefully that turns out to be true. Number 2, this is actually part of where I'm making the change in the lineup per what I have written down. This is where I'd put Marwin Gonzalez at second base, because he's not the world's greatest hitter, though when he does hit, he hits pretty good. He actually is more conducive to hitting second in the lineup. So actually, Marwin Gonzalez would be right here. He hits 20 plus home runs a year. He's not going to put 30. If you put up 30, you're either 3, 4, or 5. So he actually would be a good 2 position hitter, because his job's to move the runners, not necessarily knock them in. So I would put Marwin Gonzalez there, because their power hitters are stacked. So you got no business putting him 3, 4, or 5, or at least that's how I see it. I could be very wrong. As I've said in episodes past, I'll be the first to admit when I'm wrong. I have no shame in that. But I think they're going to put him 2. Number 3, I wholeheartedly agree with this. Rafael Devers. He's one of the best hitting third basemen in baseball. Actually, this is why I got Marwin Gonzalez as a second baseman, because the Sox are pretty well set at third and at shortstop, and Marwin Gonzalez has experience at all the corners, and he's played everywhere in the infield except pitching and catching. So he actually is a pretty good fielding infielder. So by fielding, I mean he's not going to have a catching error very often, or a throwing error for that fact. Yeah. So they're probably going to put him at second base. They could put him at first, but I don't know if they'll do that. Anyway, Rafael Devers is going to be at third base because that's his chosen profession. He had a sophomore slump, but outside of that second season, he's been paying off. He puts it out 30-plus times home per year. So, yeah, it makes sense to put him in the 3-hole. Batting cleanup? Come on. It's JD Martinez. Jose Daniel Martinez, for the record. He's a designated hitter. He's one of the designated hitters. That makes you go, okay, yeah. He can hit, and he can hit for power. And when the Red Sox need an outfielder, he actually does know how to play in the outfield. I think he usually does left whenever they have to have him on the field. Usually that's interleague play. And now that interleague play is literally every single day there's a game. More than just a Monday or Thursday, which are usually the off days for teams. He's he can do it all. He didn't have a great 2020, but then again, did anybody outside of LA and Tampa? So, yeah. He's the perfect cleanup hitter. Number 5, this is also part of where I would make the change for the rotation, or for the lineup. This is where I would put Xander Bogaerts It's not often when you have a shortstop that you know can hit in the 5-hole right after cleanup. Xander Bogaerts is that shortstop. He can do that. So, yeah, he's another guy that you expect to put it out of the park 30 plus times a year. And you expect 85 to 100 RBIs or runs batted in per year. He is that kind of hitter. You do expect that from him. And he doesn't collect a lot of errors either. So, yeah, that's where I'd put him. Number 6 would be Christian Vazquez, the catcher. He actually is a pretty good fielding catcher. Usually, catchers that can hit, you don't expect them to be able to just sling it to second base and pick off a base runner. He is that kind of catcher. You do expect that from him. I don't know of him having a lot of pass balls. For my audience who doesn't know, pass ball is when a ball you're supposed to catch as a catcher gets past you. He doesn't have a lot of those. So he actually is a pretty good fielding catcher as well. And catcher is is the second most, if not the most important position in the field. He usually is the leader, and Christian Vazquez is that leader. Number 7, a guy they just acquired, Hunter Renfroe, left field. So, he's not the greatest hitter. He played in the World Series last year with Tampa Bay. You know, I mentioned that Tampa Bay has basically let all their talent walk. Hunter Renfroe is one of those guys. He's not the best hitter when he's got a full season under his belt, but he is a pretty good fielder. Actually, the Red Sox may try and put him in center because he is a good a good fielder. I don't necessarily know that they will. He's played most of his career at left, so I think it would be best if they just leave him there. If he can improve his hitting or just gets more power behind him, then maybe they can move him up in the lineup. But with how stacked their lineup is, I don't necessarily know why they would. 8 in the lineup, Franchy Cordero. He's the guy that the Red Sox got for Andrew Benintendi. I think they got a few other players as well, but he's the primary one that they got. I haven't paid attention to the Royals for about 6 years now. I'll let you guess as to why. But, yeah, I don't know. If the Red Sox have to budge around the outfield a bit so that they can get the right personnel in the right location, it looks like Franchy Cordero doesn't really have like a set position. He's been bounced around quite a bit in the outfield. At least that's what I've seen. So I don't know, but I think they'll put him in right. In which case, they're pretty well set. If you're batting that low in the lineup, chances are you're probably not a great hitter. And batting 9th, Bobby Dalbec, first base. I don't know. Honest to God, he's the one guy I forgot to look up on RotoChamp or on Baseball Reference. Those are my two sources for this, by the way. I couldn't tell you the first thing about him. Per this, it says he plays first base and he's near the bottom of the lineup, if not the bottom of the lineup. RotoChamp wasn't updated yet, so it actually has Enrique Hernandez at second base at the bottom. He'll probably be either backup or fill in the event that something happens and all teams have injuries. Unless you're the 2011 Giants, you're going to have injuries. So, yeah, I think that pretty well sums it up for the offense. They got a lot of power, and they can move some runners, like across the plate. They could put up 800 runs this year. No questions asked. Here comes the issue, the rotation. So, when their rotation is on, it is on. And they've had years where their rotation is just phenomenal. The 2012 or the 2011 collapse was because they had no rotation. Their pitching staff was garbage, mostly. Not entirely, but mostly. And that's what caused their September collapse. If their rotation plays to their 2018 standards, then yes, they are solid, and they can make a run. Starting off, so I'm gonna move the rotation around a little bit because I need to make it make sense. He's should be the opening day starter number 1. That being Chris Sale. The Red Sox, after the 2018 season, signed him to a 5-year, $145 million contract. I might have got that last digit wrong, but I don't think it really matters because we expect a lot from you for a long time. So he should be the ace. Number 2, Nathan Eovaldi. I'm a fan of this guy. He can throw regularly over 100. When he is on top of his game, he is a stud. Truly, he is. He's one of the guys that the Red Sox traded for at the deadline in 2018, and it took them to a World Series. He was one of those guys. He really was that important to this rotation. He has to stay healthy, which he didn't in 2019, and I couldn't tell you anything about last year. So if he pitches his full standard and stays healthy, then yes, he is that good. Number 3, was one of the guys that I love to see him succeed, but he's been too inconsistent throughout his career. If he can get his consistency, then it's a different story. That being Eduardo Rodriguez. He's another lefty. I saw him pitch in person at Nationals Park on the 4th of July, actually. Yeah, the year that won it. That was a really fun game. Eduardo is, when he's on top of his game, he's really good. But when he's not, he's not. 4th in the rotation is Garrett Richards. I had heard of this guy, but I didn't really know anything about him. So he spent most of his career in San Diego. What I saw, he actually does have some pretty good stuff. Like, he actually does have a pretty lengthy career. Well, not lengthy, but he's played long enough that he knows the game. And a little hit and miss, but when he does pitch regularly, he actually is pretty good. So, at very least, for a 4th man in the rotation, he's what you would want. Seriously, he is about as good as you could possibly want for the 4th guy in the rotation. You usually expect that guy to have a losing record. He actually could have a winning record. Number 5, Martin Perez. He's the 5th guy in the rotation for a reason. Roto Champ had a 6th, but I don't see the point in throwing a 6th guy on there. So I just did the top 5. But Martin Perez is clearly just, look, we need a 5th guy in the rotation. We do. We just need a new guy. So they put him on there. Their closer is Matt Barnes. he can be solid, but he's not going to be the best closer in the world. He's not. And then their bullpen, they usually work stuff off Brandon Workman. He's their setup guy. He usually pitches either the 7th or the 8th inning, and he's pretty good when he's on top of his game. But he's not always. And he doesn't really have great success in the postseason, which that can be an issue. So I've gone through each of the players, I've gone through the lineup, I've gone through my personal thoughts on each one. As I mentioned at the top, if they play to their full strength, their full capability, they can win the East. They'd go worst to first. Again. Just like 2013. But I don't particularly think that they will. If for no other reason, then they don't really have a Mookie like they did in 2018. They don't really have that guy that can lead them there. I mentioned Christian Vasquez as the catcher, and the catcher is usually the leader, but he's not really a take you to the title type leader. They need that guy. They need that solid best player. They don't have to have an MVP, but they need to have a guy that can play at MVP level. JD Martinez can do that, but he can't do that from the field because he's primarily a designated hitter. If he were to play primarily outfield, then yes, he could. And I think their pitching staff's too inconsistent. Because of that, I think that they'll finish 3rd in the division. It's a step up from last year, but you really can't say too much about 2020. So I think I made my feelings about that pretty clear in the Orioles opener. But that one was also way, way, way longer. So, I think we're going to go and wrap it up. I've given my thoughts, and I would like to know what you think. Because I'm starting to do videos now, putting them on YouTube, comment on the video. It's that simple. If you think I'm a complete moron, let me know. Any press is good press. And I'd like to think that while I try to be ever the optimist, sometimes I'm not. I'd like to think I'm at least polite about it. So, let me know what you think. If you want to tell me I'm doing a good job, or I need to get my Addo baseball banner up here, which I currently have a friend working on, let me know. If you're talking to me on my podcast, I'm currently having issues with my Twitter account. Let me know what you think. Let me know via email, ladamo89@gmail. No, I'm not giving you my password. You can send me an email there. Yeah, I would really like to know what you think. Or if I missed something entirely, please let me know. So, I want to thank you for watching or listening, or both. With that being said, thank you for listening. Cheers until next time.